Picture a dimension untouched by conventional science, untouched by accepted truth, a realm suspended between certainty and skepticism, between geometry and conspiracy. Imagine an Earth not as a globe, but as a disk, bounded by ice, ruled by lights fixed above. We are about to cross a flat Earth here on Things Visible and Invisible. Mark Sargent is known as the king of the flat earth. Since 2015, he has been a full-time advocate of the flat earth theory, later rising to prominence with his YouTube series, Flat Earth Clues, which garnered millions of views and sparked the modern flat earth movement. And he joins me down the line from his home in Washington State. Mark, welcome to Things Visible and Invisible.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, Mark, when I first came across your work, I was intrigued by it, obviously, but I did start to scratch my head and thought, really, does anybody believe in the flat earth theory these days? When and where did you get interested in this?
I got interested in the summer of 2014. I had looked at just about every conspiracy you could think of. Some I liked, some I didn't, and I basically run out of conspiracies to look at. And the last one on the shelf, the last one I ever thought of even looking at, which was ridiculous, it's silly, was the flat earth theory. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to spend a weekend on it, shut it down. Shouldn't be that hard to do, right? That weekend turned into a month, which turned into 9 months. And then at the beginning of 2015, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go the other way. So I made a series of videos called the Flat Earth Clues. I put them out on YouTube with all my contact information and said, you know what, Internet, come at me. I can't prove the globe in a court of law anymore. And what happened, followed after that was amazing. Everything just kind of exploded. Here we are 10 years later, 3 books, a Netflix documentary, endorsements, conferences, you name it. It was amazing. And so yeah, flat Earth, I'm in 100%.
Now, in terms of conspiracies, Mark, this is, shall we say, a rather niche, or it was a rather niche area. You know, there were people about JFK or moon landings or Bigfoot or whatever.
Yeah.
Flat Earth, you must get this a lot. If we were sitting on a plane going across the Atlantic and you turned to me and told me what you did, I would sort of be scratching my head saying, well, hasn't science proved all this? And you must get that a lot. What's your reaction to that sort of question?
I was the same thing. In fact, one of the reasons I can't criticize anyone that comes at me from any form of media is 10 years ago I used to be them. I would have laughed you out of the room. In fact, the first paragraph in the Flat Earth Clues was, I've got friends that think the royal family are made up of lizard people, right? And then I'd come at those same people. I go, yeah, what about flat Earth? And they go, get the hell out of here. And I go, what are you talking about? I go, you just said lizard people. And yet flat Earth is the nutty one. Everybody who goes against flat Earth tries to lean on science first, right? They lean on astrophysicists and physics professors and astronomers, and eventually they will lean on the American group known as NASA. And I did too. It's like, well, NASA, obviously, because the Americans went to the moon in 1969, right? And yet, the more you look at it, that footage, everything that was Apollo-based has aged really, really badly. And the longer you stare at it, the more strings you will eventually pull on. And sooner or later, you're going to be like me, 9 months later, it's like, how is it that I cannot prove it anymore? I was banging my head on the keyboard and said, you know what? Science, again, I'm not criticizing all of science. We're talking on the fruits of science. But when it comes to the space program, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all a stage.
Well, before we go too far into the atmosphere, I want to stay on planet Earth, be it round or flat, and talk a little bit more about the case for the flat Earth theory. Okay.
Right.
Most of us will have an idea of just the sorts of things you've said. The scientific establishment, the academia, and NASA would all say this is preposterous. Of course, the world is
right,
etc. So, if we were in a court of law, and you alluded to that earlier, what would be the evidence for the defense of your case?
Well, let's back up 1 second just for the listeners. It's like, what are we even talking about? What does the flat Earth look like? Just so you guys know, but the opening statement would be, you are not living on a tiny little rock that's covered with a very, very small amount of water and a very, very amount of atmosphere flying through the universe in multiple directions at impossible speeds and impossible distances. You are living in a building. You're living in a stage, a snow globe, a planetarium that looks very much like this, which is the North Pole's at the center, there's a dome over it, and you're not in space at all. In fact, who told you there was space to begin with? But when it comes to the evidence, I'll give you something that I gave a physicist from Georgetown University here in the States years ago. There was a German television team. They said, give me 5 bullet points. I go, okay, my 5 bullet points, they're pretty easy. One, long distance photography, which is, you can say if the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile, and I'm not trying to throw math at you, it's 8 inches per mile squared, which is eventually, there's the curvature of the Earth, she'll hide things, right? You can't see on the other side of a hill, right? Because there's something physically blocking it. That used to be true up until about 15 years ago when HD cameras came out. Now with HD technology, you can see way, way further than you should be able to. You can see boats on the horizon. You can pull them back into frame after they're long gone. Same thing with lighthouses and buildings and peninsulas and on a very, very calm day where there's no wind. That's the big key there. Weather plays havoc with the atmosphere. You can see way, way farther. Bullet point 2, gravity versus the vacuum of space. Everybody knows that, well, the atmosphere is here because of gravity, right? That's what's holding the air down. And yet, gravity will lose to the force of a vacuum every chance. If there was a vacuum above you right now on the second floor of your building with a valve, and you pulled it, and you popped that valve, the air would equalize instantly, violently. It's not like the movies. And yet, when you go outside, people will say, well, scientists will say, well, the atmosphere is still here because of gravity. I go, you mean the same gravity that couldn't hold the air in your room from going upstairs into that vacuum chamber? The very same gravity is holding the atmosphere next to the biggest vacuum chamber in history, which is supposedly space, right? Number 3, which would be the moon temperature, which is, the moon shadow, which is way too small. So the moon's supposedly 2,000 miles wide. But yet, when you see the eclipse shadow that goes across, the eclipses that crisscross the world, those shadows are less than 100 miles. In fact, they can get down to about the size of 70 miles. Why is that? 2,000 mile shadow that condenses down to 70 miles. We never see that naturally. So why does it happen with the moon? What's interesting that is we say that's generally speaking how big the moon is. It's less than 100 miles wide, and it's very, very close. So the shadow matches exactly what we said the shadow should be. 4th would be the moon temperature, something that science still 10 years later has not even begun to address, which is everybody knows that unfortunately I'm going to have to do this in Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius very well for you guys, which is we all know it's cooler in the sunshade, right? Let's say it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun, it's 70 degrees in the shade, right? We all know that. In the moon shade, it's absolutely the opposite. So if it's 50 degrees in the moon, underneath the moon, it's 60 degrees and sometimes 63, 65 in the moon shade. Why is it warmer in the moon shade? And we can do this all day long with point and click thermometers, infrared cameras. We can do it all day long. At the very least, it should be neutral. It should never go negative. Why is it always colder in the moonlight than the moonshade? And bullet point number 5, which is the Van Allen radiation belts, which is announced by Van Allen, a NASA employee, that says there's a heavy, heavy dose of radiation, 60,000 miles thick, surrounding the entire world. And yet, the only things that can stop radiation are gold, lead, and a whole bunch of water. How did the American astronaut program get to the moon and back 6 times? Nobody died. Nobody got cancer. Nobody even got radiation poisoning. As far as I know today, there's still 4 of those guys walking around today. Everybody died. All the astronauts died of natural causes. How does that happen? When the shielding that they use when they go up into space is aluminum and plastic. How does that happen? And those 5 bullet points, the Georgetown astrophysicist that I sent it to, he just closed down. He folded like a card table. And that was it. He's like, nope, I'm not touching this. We're done. And it's like, okay, that's fine. And since then, nobody will email me along those lines. Science does not want to touch any of those things. So those are the 5 things I'd throw in at court. I know we're pressed for time. There you go.
Well, well, you've given me a lot to think about, and I want to come back to some of that, Mark. But I want. There's something on my mind that I want to just. I haven't met many proponents of the flat Earth theory, so
Sure.
allow me this opportunity to ask you a question.
Yeah.
With the current orthodoxy, you travel around the world, and you will forever travel around the world because it's you go round and round and round the world.
Right.
With the flat Earth. If I was to travel across to Washington State and beyond, is there a point on the globe, or sorry, not the globe, the disc, where I literally sort of fall off the Earth?
You would never fall off because it's contained. Again, I'm going to hold up the model there where the North Pole's in the center and the continents are splayed out. And by the way, this map, we didn't come up with this map out of our own, right? This is also known as the azimuthal equidistant projection, which is used by most map projectors. And it happens to be, coincidentally, the map for the United Nations. It matches absolutely exactly. So when it comes to going to the outside, eventually you would run into Antarctica. All the other continents you can probably recognize on here. Antarctica, which is basically a snowy version of Australia, if you're looking on the globe, is actually this massive, massive continent that stretches around the entire outside. Nobody owns it, by the way. It's the only piece of real estate that's owned by nobody in the world. And the only people that are allowed to go down there are the military and military scientists. There's only about 5,000 people in Antarctica publicly at any given point in the world. So yes, if you were flying here, eventually, if you could bypass the GPS system, which is a whole nother thing, eventually you would run into Antarctica. So in this map, north is basically the center of the map, and all other points all the directions eventually point south. Now, that doesn't say you couldn't circumnavigate this. It's no different than circumnavigating your dinner plate. If you put your finger on a dinner plate and ran in a circle and came back to the same point, you circumnavigated your dinner plate. Does that make your dinner plate a globe? No, it does not. And now you're saying, well, okay, well, what about the compass or the GPS system? Wouldn't that tell you where to go? Well, the compass actually works the exact same on this. If the magnetic north, if the center of this thing is north, and we can do this with a map, and we've got all sorts of videos on this, then the compass will react the same. You won't know any different. Everything dominates north. There is only magnetic north. There is no magnetic south. You can talk to anybody that's been to Antarctica and say, what does a compass do when you get to Antarctica? They say, oh, a compass is worthless out here. I've had everyone from general photographers to Australian media, to Australian military, that said the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's absolutely worthless. We don't know why, but that's the case. And then you say, okay, what about the GPS system, which is the Americans, by the way. The GPS system is an American DoD system. It is a military system which started out as what was known as the LORAN system, LORAN, which was a radar-based system. And then we basically repurposed it and relabeled it and said, oh, it's GPS now. It's covered by 30-something blanketing satellites that go around the world. And yet, when you go out into the ocean, if you are out of land-based radar range, your plane will disappear technically from the charts. Your icon will still be there, but your latitude and longitude will disappear. It will go into what's known as approximated or estimated mode. This isn't a big secret. It's just one of those things. But we want to talk about like how the Malaysian flight got lost in the Indian Ocean. It's like they don't know where it is. They know approximately where it is, but they don't know exactly. It's like, wait a minute, don't you have blanketing satellites that are going all over the place that tell me where it is? No, same thing. And it's not just in the southern hemisphere where this happens. There are no islands, for example, between California and Hawaii, and people go there all the time. When you get about 150, 200 miles off the California coast heading toward Hawaii, your plane blinks out. It goes into approximated mode, and it's like, well, hope they get there, because once you get close to Hawaii, the other radars pick you up. It's like, oh, okay, there they are. And then they make a slight course adjustment, and then they're there. So, yeah, that's how they've gotten away with it for years. In fact, sorry, one more thing real quick. I'm watching the clock, which is we haven't even known. Our best and brightest. I'm not saying this is a conspiracy that's been hidden by so many people at all at once, which might be one of your questions. Even our best and brightest didn't figure this out until almost 1960. Before then, you didn't know for sure because back then we didn't know what the outside of this place looked like. Back then, we didn't even know if there was a firmament to be sure. We didn't have the technology. We didn't have the pressurized aircraft to pull this off. Up until then, our tech was just low. You remember, only 100 years ago, we had no planes really to speak of. Anyway, sorry, I ramble.
No, no, no. I mean, you sort of read my mind, Mark. I was starting to wonder. You're making a compelling case.
Thank you. I try.
However,
Yeah.
I was wondering at the back of my mind, if Mark is making such a good case, why doesn't science orthodoxy, why doesn't academia, why doesn't NASA want to engage with you on these topics?
Why hide it? That should be like,
Well, that's the question. Why hide it? What's the significance? Whether we're a globe or whether we're a disc, what does it really matter?
it's too big. And the what I mean by that is science has built this institution on itself. It's basically its own religion. I call it scientism. And science, their foundations are so well laid, and there's too many things that would be opened up. People's like, why? This would be a very short Illuminati meeting. Let's put it that way. It's like the question would come up. It's like you would be in the meeting, and you're like, hey, why don't we just tell people? And some of the people's like, oh, okay. Here's what might happen. Academically, every university in the world simultaneously would have to gut entire sections of their library. Forget about astrophysics and astronomy. We're talking about biology, hydrology, archaeology. Anything with an ology would have to be rebuilt from the ground up. No play on words there. And that's every university in the world. Economically, the stock markets would have to be, the world markets would have to be suspended for months just to figure out what it means, because you don't know the ramifications. I mean, you know, how the markets can be twitchy as it is. But the big one, the really, really big one, is you're telling the five major religions of this world, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, you're giving them leverage against science, all of them simultaneously, and you're asking them to show restraint. Right? These are the people that have been beat over the head with textbooks for the last, X number of centuries. And you're asking them to hold back? Oh, no. The science would be on the ropes. That's a boxing term. They would be backpedaling because there'd be so many questions. Okay, so you were wrong about, the shape of the earth. What else are you wrong about? Let's see. Let's revisit evolution or the Big Bang or dark matter or just about anything that goes into the science. I mean, science would never recover. It's too big a thing to be released into the general public, like just say at the UN meeting. It's too big. So you've heard the term over the years. You're old enough to remember the real estate thing in the United States, too big to fail. That term, right? Sort of like the Epstein thing, right? That list. I'm sorry, I've seen part of that list. It's too big. That list gets released, media gets decimated. I mean, it's ugly. It's super, super bad. With this, it's even bigger. You're talking about but to that point, do I think the public was ready for it to be released in 1960 when they kind of figured this thing out? No. Do I think in 2025 they could pull it off? Yeah, but they'd have to mask it with something else. Some sort of Project Bluebeam or some sort of ancient civilization reveal, something like that. You can't just come out and say it. Because there's too many institutions that would be, again, I'm watching the clock, too many institutions you'd have to go to and say, okay, how long have you known and why didn't you tell us? So you got to give them a way out. You've got to give NASA a get out of jail free card, and that's not easy to come up with without bringing in a higher power. Sorry, one more thing, which was the other thing is, if we didn't build this, right? If we're living here, if we didn't build it, you admit to that, and all of a sudden you have created a level of authority that's higher than the government, and that diminishes any government's power. And that is, men in power do not like relinquishing authority voluntarily by any stretch. Anyway, sorry. There you go.
Absolutely fascinating. You're right. We are against the clock, and so one last question for this time, Mark. We're going to have to have it back. This is fascinating. You've alluded to it a number of times. 1960 is when there was a discovery made of this sort. Very briefly, can you give us some idea of who made that discovery, where was it made, and why was it not propagated?
Oh, right. Okay, so Admiral Byrd, Richard Byrd, you can look him up, is the youngest admiral in the United States Navy at the time, I think ever, that became an admiral. He was the first man to fly to the North Pole in the early 1920s, and then when he was in the Navy after World War II, or actually before and after World War II, he was the guy that was doing all the exploration down in Antarctica. What happened is that he found the markers for the outer barrier, or at least found some indications that there was some sort of firmament. And when that happened, they decided to lock the whole place down, which was a smart move. I would have done the same thing. So in 1959, they came up with something known as the Antarctic Treaty. You guys can look it up. The PDF's out there. It's easy to find. It's not secret, which says that no corporation or country can set up shop in Antarctica forever. And it's not even up for debate until 2041, and it's the only unbroken treaty in the history of treaties. I have never seen anything. That was the thing that got me more than anything else, which was no corporation, no matter how much power or liquid assets you have or resources you have, you are not allowed to set up shop in Antarctica. Really, the oil and gas industries of the world, British Petroleum, for example, would love to go down there. Can't do it. Why not? National security. Why? I don't know. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to write articles about it. Full page ads in a newspaper. Nope. You just don't get to talk about it. So that was the big thing they discovered in 1960 and locked it down. I knew it as soon as I read it. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because also the very same time in 1960, NASA was founded in 1950, was it 59, 58? Yeah, 59. And the two simultaneously, which is exactly what I do. The first thing you would do once you figured out what this place was, I rounded in 1960, is you lock down the upper edge and the outer edge. So the Antarctic Treaty locks down the outer edge, and militarizing space with NASA locks down the upper, and that's it. That's all you do. And then you create a fake space race to ramp up the program, make sure nobody else does anything privately, and shut it all down in 1972. And that's where we've been ever since.
Absolutely fascinating. Tell people, Mark, where they can find out more about you, where they can find out more about your work.
The easiest way, I mean, I'm on various social media things, but the easiest way, you know what, just go to any search engine and type in Flat Earth Mark, and you will get to me, or at least people in my community. Our community is massive. There's lots of people out there so don't just, take my word for it. And sorry, as a parting shot, which is whatever I've said here, again, take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe me. Do your own research and figure this out for yourself. And always, always ask questions.
Mark, thank you very much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI-branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.